Now on Indianapolis This Week, the fight for control of state education policy. New developments in the showdown between Glenda Ritz and the State Board of Education. Our political insiders weigh in. Plus, new details surrounding the state's economy and the job outlook in Indiana. And how all of those roundabouts in Carmel are becoming part of the national discussion on climate change.
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Rafael Sanchez, and welcome to Indianapolis This Week. We begin this week with new developments in education, with a showdown between Glenda Ritz and Governor Mike Pence. The Board of Education has approved a new A through F grading scale for schools around the state. Now, these grades are for the schools, how the schools are performing academically. The board passed a system without the fireworks that have been part of previous meetings. Now, also Friday, the state released the A through F grades for schools for the last school year, and take note of these. All 4 IPS turnaround schools, the ones taken over by private operators, received Fs, failing to improve their standing in the first year of state control. Plus, a Crystal House Academy, the school at the center of the grading scandal involving Tony Bennett, received an F after receiving A's for several years. Now, we heard from the school, and this is their statement to RTV6. We appealed our grade based on tremendously disruptive ISTEP Plus testing problems. They went on to say, we believe these disruptions fatally flawed the results. We believe this inaccurately represents the performance of our students and teachers. We now welcome our political insiders, Kip Tu and Abdul Hakim Shabazz. How many other schools will say, look, this test, we had so many problems that these results are just not valid?
Well, there are about 115 schools, according to the DOE, who appealed, and their appeals were denied. There are only a handful of schools whose appeals were approved. What the Crystal House is saying, if I read their news release correctly, was that 92% of their students were disrupted during ISTEP, and all the students who passed ISTEP last year, Crystal House says they did not pass this year. Now, when you get into the weeds of scores and that process is yet to be looked at, but I think it's interesting because Crystal House is basically making the argument that Glenda Ritz did a year ago, saying, hey, because of high-stakes tests and these disruption test scores, we may not be able to trust these ISTEP tests, even though it was only a small percentage, but that could be part of that percentage where it was really impacted.
I do believe that the A through F system that was released this week is the Tony Bennett system and still flawed. I know one school went from A to D to A in the course of 3 years. So we've got a big problem, and I think that's why the board on Friday is changing the system, and it needs to be changed because I don't think anybody really has a lot of faith in these scores. They're bouncing around and they don't make any sense. The A through F system, if we're going to have accountability, we need to have accountability that everybody understands, because if you don't understand the accountability, it's really not accountability. So I hope, I do have some hope, because I think the State Board of Education meeting on Friday was civil for once. I think the people on the board got the message, which is that they weren't being productive, and they decided to come into that meeting and try to be conciliatory rather than
disruptive. And that Glenda Ritz didn't storm out. She actually stayed and did her job.
We need a system where people actually understand, because a lot is riding. Economic development is riding on this stuff. People may decide whether to move into City A over City B if they look at these scores. I mean, so these scores have to be in some way dependable. Can we arrive at that system, though?
I think you can get a system. It's just probably going to take a little bit longer to get to that accountability system.
From what country will get that system? I mean, is it something that we currently have, or do we have to go to Sweden or Japan? I mean, can we do that?
Well, it's just making the A through F system make sense. So, I mean, if we're going to give letter grades, the letter needs to correspond with something that everybody can understand, and that is, are the kids passing the test? Not all these complicated formulas, but are you making progress in your school? Are your kids passing the test? Are they learning what they need to be learning? Those things are not that complicated, and we've overcomplicated it.
But are we so highly political on this issue that can we arrive at that point? Can Glenda Ritz actually work with her school board members?
She said from the beginning she's for accountability.
The thing
she's never said she's not for accountability. The system that was designed was just flawed.
Basically, what you've had is, you've had this Glenda Ritz, you've had the state board, go back, put together a system. I think, there's your sort of bipartisan cooperation, because remember, these grades that we just had were based on the old system, not necessarily the new system. So when we come back with the new system for next year, we'll sit there in these sort of massive grade swings. But I think it may take 1 or 2 years to get the whole system worked out.
What we saw on Friday, a very civil meeting, will that be the trend going to 2014? Will these folks be able to work together and put whatever feelings aside from the lawsuits and the walking out or the adjournment, however you see that, and move forward?
My guess is what happened is the governor went to the members of the state board and said, we need to lower the temperature on this. This is not helping me as the governor to be in a fight with my superintendent. Please lower the temperature, and it did.
Or you may have it just the opposite, which was Glenda Ritz has realized that she wasn't getting anywhere with her strategy of throwing temper tantrums. And then you have the state teachers union.
Do you believe that to be true? When
yeah.
she sued these people. So
yeah, and she lost on a number of occasions. And so...
On one occasion.
Yeah, I actually lost a number of occasions, because even when she asked for an opinion from the Attorney General about procedure and policy, the Attorney General came back and said, hey, your school board, your Board of Education is right. Get with the programs.
Let's go ahead and grade the economy. On the issue of the economy, numbers were released
now that's a segue.
on Friday to put the state's unemployment rate in November at 7.3%, down 0.2% from October. Now, the Pence administration says fewer Hoosiers were unemployed last month than were out of work in November 2008, at the start of what's known as the Great Recession. Yet the governor's office earlier this month announced $57 million in state spending cuts. Which is the real picture of the state economy, Kip 2?
I think they're both real pictures, and I'm very pleased that the job market's starting to recover in Indiana. The problem is that the jobs that are recovering, it's not catching up with the income disparity that we have. We still are in terrible shape as a state when it comes to income disparity, and people are not making as much per person as they do in other states, and that's what we really need to be working on. We need to build up the middle class. That's what causes everything to do really well.
Just going to sound really weird, but I'm actually going to agree with Kep, which means we must be getting close to Christmas or something. And somebody was visited by three ghosts.
You're giving him a gift.
That's my gift. Yeah, no, I think the economy is recovering. The thing is, we do not distinguish necessarily between part-time jobs and full-time jobs. And also, a lot of people going back to work, the new jobs that are available, they don't necessarily have the skill set for, which goes back once again.
Who gets the credit? Who gets the credit? Is this an issue of the president's stimulus plan? Is this an issue of Mitch Daniels' 8 years in office? Or is this the governor's, Pence's new agenda?
Well, I think that you look at the national figures came out, and there was 4% job growth. No one or 4%, I'm sorry, growth of GDP right. On Friday. That figure was released, and I think that no one expected that. It was well above the average, and so you're seeing the entire country start to finally recover.
I believe presidents and governors get the blame when things go south, so they have to get credit when things start to turn around. However, if you look at sort of the top 10 states where the growth is taking place, where new jobs are being created, Indiana is consistently ranking in that top 10. So at the very least, Governor Pence gets some credit for that.
So going to 2014, does it make it much easier for this governor to sell his economic plan? Can he now say, look, you saw the numbers in 2013 there at the end of the year, you must do as I have in all these papers, because if you don't, we'll go backwards. Can
well, it's not going to the central question, which is what I brought up, and that is how are we going to pull people into a good salary, I guess is the best way to say it. And we've not attacked building up the middle class through the last 8 years. It's evident by everything.
I cannot pull you into a new salary and a new job if you don't have the skills to do the new job. So I think focusing and closing that skills gap and then continue to improve education, expand opportunity, that's the way to do it. That's what the governor's been pushing.
On Friday, the president talked about the Affordable Care Act. He reports that in December, 500,000 Americans have signed up for the program. Is this thing finally working? Are people actually being able to sign up for health care? Will this improve in the months to come?
Well, I think the biggest indicator is that the major insurance companies across the United States are starting to do some heavy advertising, so they're investing their time, dollars, and resources in making sure this thing works. So yeah, I think there's going to be some more problems. There's going to be more embarrassments for the administration because it wasn't done right from the get-go. There's some security issues that are very important that they need to get right, but we're moving along. I hope, and I haven't heard a Republican say in at least a week that they want to repeal it, so things are starting to move.
Just as I can sign up to get hit in the head with a sledgehammer, it's not going to make the getting hit in the head that much more fun. We're still seeing premiums increase.
I have no idea what you said. I speak Spanish. I don't even know how to translate that.
Just because it's easier to sign up for something bad doesn't make that thing I'm signing up for good.
Well, most people are happy that they're getting insurance for the first time.
Yeah, we're still seeing premiums going to go up and increase, and the administration is still having problems getting those young people to sign up, and those are the people that you're going to need, because it's going to take the young to underwrite the premium costs for the sick, and unless you get those young people to sign up.
Does Healthy Indiana get expanded next year?
I hope that they come to their senses and that they expand Medicaid to include HIP, and we come to some compromise, because there's a lot of people out there who need health insurance.
Can we afford it?
I think we can afford it if it's done the Pence folks way, which is expanded in the Healthy Indiana plan.
Is the Pence folks' way the best way?
Well, I mean, there's going to be an argument, I suppose, about that. I think, obviously, it's really in the state's interest that we expand Medicaid. It's a whole bunch of money for the next 5 years.
10 seconds, go.
It's baby elephant syndrome. If I give you a baby elephant only 3 years to feed, you're still going to be messed up in year 4.
I think we're going to the zoo after that. I think the
Zoo and sledgehammers, I don't know where he is
The
today.
zoo's open. The conversation between our insiders continues on Twitter. Check out their Twitter handles and give us your opinion, and stay up with Kip, Abdul, Laura, and Jennifer throughout the week. There's been plenty of talk about those roundabouts in Carmel. Did you know they're sparking national conversation as well as a way to protect the environment? Mayor Jim Brader joins us next as Indianapolis This Week continues. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. On this first full day of winter in central Indiana, we want to talk about climate change and what cities around the country are doing to limit its impact. One Hoosier mayor is at the forefront of that discussion. Joining us now is Carmel Mayor Jim Brader. He is serving his 5th term as chief executive of the city of Carmel. President Obama appointed him to a special task force on climate preparedness and resilience. Welcome to the program.
It's great to be here.
Why is climate change such a divisive subject when you bring it up?
Well, it
Not
should-
you personally, but around
Yeah.
the country.
It shouldn't be divisive. Unfortunately, a lot of things are, it seems, these days. But if you look back at history, it was Republican Teddy Roosevelt who set aside more than 230 million acres of wilderness for our national park system. It was Republican President Richard Nixon who started the EPA, who signed the legislation for the safe drinking laws, the Migratory Bird Acts, the acts that prohibited DDT and pesticides that allowed our eagles to come back, all this environmental legislation. In fact, even John McCain in his 2008 campaign had a carbon tax, of all things, in his platform. It's really been since, I think, Al Gore started talking about global warming that somehow it's become a divisive subject.
But you would not put yourself in the same camp with Al Gore, would you? In the sense of, it's become that kind of debate, has it not been, where Democrats say no, we need to save the climate, but Republicans say it's become divisive?
Not the majority of Republicans. The majority of Republicans, Pew Research did a poll in October of this year that showed the majority of Republicans believe the climate's warming and that it's because of human activity. There's probably some people out there that believe the earth is flat too, but it's very easy to see. You know, the National Weather Service has, to bring it down to its simplest terms, thermometers at the North Pole and the South Pole, and they've warmed year over year every month for the last 350 some months.
You are now part of a panel. Carmel is there represented at the White House. What do you bring to that discussion? What does Carmel say to the rest of the country as part of that task force?
Well, Carmel has done things differently as a suburb. We have, back in 2005, I issued an executive order that said all of our city fleet purchases have to be a hybrid or alternative fuel vehicle if available. We have a no idling policy. I started a couple years earlier. Our roundabouts, not only do we get an 80% reduction in injury accidents, we're saving about 500,000 gallons of fuel per roundabout per year in the city of Carmel. With our 80 roundabouts, that's 40 million gallons of fuel per year. $3 a gallon, do the math, $120 million.
And Mr. Mayor, you've heard a lot of the jokes about those roundabouts, but in essence, really, the rest of the country is now saying, you know what, those roundabouts are making a difference.
They are making a difference, tremendous improvement in serious accidents, 80% reduction when compared to a stoplight, but all this fuel that's saved. So Carmel's been out in the forefront of trying to figure out how to retrofit a suburb so that it's more livable. And I think that's what's gotten the president's attention. It's nice. There's 26 people on this task force, and 4 Republicans come from a coal state. We still have about 3,000 jobs in this state that people are coal miners, and we need to, of course, work with those folks as we move from powering our power plants with coal and natural gas and other cleaner forms. But we have a high asthma rate. You know, you go back to this debate that shouldn't be a debate between the Republicans and Democrats. This should be an American issue. But you go back to that debate, you know, the word conservative comes from the root conserve. You know, our parents, at least I'm old enough to have parents that lived through the Depression, and they recycled everything. This just shouldn't be a partisan issue.
In our last 30 seconds, what do you hope then to accomplish in 2014 and 2015 as you work with this group and and this task force? What will be the goal at the end?
My goal is to try to bring ideas from Indiana and the Midwest to the president and his staff's attention as to how the federal government can help local communities who are on the forefront of dealing with the impacts of climate change, how we can get the federal government to work with us better.
Is there something you've heard already from the task force that you'll say, you know what? I'm going to bring that back to Carmel. I like what's happening there, and it's going to happen in my city.
That's another whole show. We've heard lots of great ideas, and I'd love to talk about it.
Oh, well, hey, we'll welcome you back. The mayor of Carmel.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. Come back again, please. And still to come, it's a crown jewel of the city of Indianapolis. Now we have a special look at the beauty of Crown Hill Cemetery and how you can share it this holiday season. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week, and we're getting an inside look at a very new book. It's called Crown Hill, The History, Spirit, and Sanctuary, an amazing book. And to talk about it, joining us now, Keith Norwalk. He's the president of Crown Hill. This is truly, if I had a book club like Oprah, I'd put this on my list.
Thank you.
What a beautiful book.
Thank you. It is a great effort, close to 400 pages with over 600 photographs, 5 authors, 2 photographers, and it gives us a great story of our 150 years of history.
What do you want people to experience when they put this in their home?
The experience is one of, I think, respect and reverence for our history, and also hopefully some of the poignant stories behind some of the 220,000 burials that have taken place at Crown Hill.
When you think of Crown Hill, you really have to consider the history of our city because they're so intertwined.
Absolutely. You can almost look at every decade and what was prominent in terms of our city's development, and you see it at Crown Hill. All of the ravages of wars, of our business development, political, and social development. So it's a great reflection on our city's development.
When you got your copy of the book, was there something inside that you said, you know what, I didn't know that? Or do you know everything about Crown Hill?
I did not know everything about Crown Hill. I still don't. I never will. To have over 220,000 stories is remarkable, and it's one that is fascinating because we never stop learning about them.
Was there a story that you found particularly, or did you say to yourself, I've never seen that picture before, or did you see something in a different way?
Absolutely.
Because again, the pictures are glorious in this book.
Absolutely. There are several photos that I looked at for the first time, and I thought, I'm not sure exactly where this is, and then I discovered where they are, and it's just a great chronicle, a great story.
Yeah, I was out at Crown Hill for the funeral for Officer Rod Bradway,
yes.
And it was really my first official time spending time there. And
yes.
I was just impressed just with how serene it is and the majesty of the place. And I had to remind myself, wait a minute, I am at a cemetery. But really, it is just a different kind of a place. Am I wrong or right about that?
You are absolutely correct. It's a very unique space. There's a lot of green space. The topography is very interesting. A lot of natural elements, trees, thousands of trees, and the landscape is serene. And it's one of the beauties of Crown Hill is that it's a great place for meditation, for reflection, and it also offers people the opportunity of enjoying the green space, which might sound a little odd in a cemetery, but it is also a place of celebration of the lives that are represented at Crown Hill.
So as you thought of that, was that key to the book then? Did you tell the authors, the people who were collecting the pictures, here's what we have, here's the treasure we have, this iconic landmark right in the middle of Indianapolis that has to be caught between the pages? And do you think they did that?
I think they have, and that is very critical. We are something of a museum. Our memorials reflect different times in our history, but also it is a place of sanctuary. It's a place for people to reflect. It's a place of very unique in terms of just the spirit of the property, and it is hallowed ground.
If I want to get the book, where can I get the book?
We have, interesting, we are just receiving our final shipment of the book. We have a telephone number, 920-4165, which is our development office. The book is for sale for $40 plus shipping. It can also be acquired at the Crown Hill office. The project also was a collaboration with the Indiana Historical Society, so they will have a quantity of books also for sale.
Would you say this would be a good Christmas gift?
I think it's a wonderful Christmas gift.
It is a beautiful book. And if I were Oprah, or like Oprah, and have a book club, I would definitely get this.
Thank you.
At home. This
Great.
is the Crown Hill History, Spirit, and Sanctuary. Keith Norwalk with Crown Hill. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Indianapolis This Week continues right after this.
I saw in love from there, select turkey. Season's greetings to my mother in Indianapolis. Hey, I'll see you soon, and make sure you have me some baked goods ready.
Season's greetings to all of our veterans. Next week, join us as our insiders review 2013 and talk about their expectations for 2014. That's next Sunday at 7:30. And beginning in January, we switch to a new time as part of our new morning lineup. We begin at 6 a.m. with Good Morning Indiana, then Good Morning America, more local news at 8, and then us at 8:30 beginning on January the 5th. Followed by This Week with George Stephanopoulos. For all of us here at RTV6, I'm Rafael Sanchez. Have a great Christmas, Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, and we'll see you next Sunday for another edition of Indianapolis This Week.
Thank you for choosing RTV6 News. Honored to be chosen as Station of the Year by the Indiana Broadcasters Association.